Hi there. I hope you're all well and as happy as can be expected in these uncertain times. Reference there to what's going on in 2020. Um, but shouldn't really be sort of over concerned with the things of the lower worlds, and they are lower as well. Let's dispense with all this egalitarianism. You've got the higher worlds and you've got the lower worlds. And there's no getting away from the fact that the lower worlds are what they are, what they say on the tin, lower worlds. They are a distraction. Um, as I've made plain on numerous occasions on this channel. Anyway, despite that, or in the face of that, I do like to make a couple of, 5 affirmations every day, and which can be sort of roughly assigned to the petals of a 5-pointed flower, which people say are the pentagram. And I can't actually see to draw very much nowadays. Anyway, I am. So I identify myself instead of with my beautiful car and my beautiful woman and my kids and dog and garage. I am root. I am rule. I am heart. I am spark. And I am soul. And on a daily basis, it's good to identify yourself with these 5 elements. And root, root is when in fact you recognize 2 things. You recognize that you are of the lower worlds and are in the lower worlds, and you are rooted in this earth and rooted in the material universe. And that's nothing that you can do anything about. Perhaps ever, perhaps, well, you can't really ask the question, will I ever escape the lower worlds? Because the question is actually meaningless when you get to the upper worlds. So there's no point in asking it. And the lower worlds don't care if you ask that question or not, because the lower worlds are busy doing what the lower worlds do, which is to distract you from perceiving the higher worlds. So, no, you'll get no help there. So root, you are rooted, and you are rooted in this earth. And so therefore you are responsible, root responsible, for being in a relationship with this world, which you can define to a certain extent by the things that you do. So root is kind of fairly active. You're rooting, and you're rooting for yourself. And as Bob Marley says, you don't know yourself until you know where you've come from, until you know where your race root is as well, which is important. So you come from a paradise. You come rooted from a perfect world, and you are now in an imperfect world, following, of course, Genesis chapter 1. So root is important. I am root, but you also recognize that you are part of the roots of the earth, and yet they say that the roots of another tree lie in heaven, and the branches of this tree that is upside down reach down into the lower worlds. And you are sitting on the branches of this tree, which is connected to the higher worlds and has its roots in the higher worlds. So simultaneously, you have roots in this world and you have roots in the higher worlds, okay, or in the actual higher world, because there are lower worlds with an S, loads of them, but there's only one higher world, at least according to Gnostic doctrine, anyway. So you have to pay the piper. You have to adapt to the lower worlds, but ultimately you are seeking adaptation to the higher worlds, which is not so much an adaptation, because in fact you are soul, which we'll come to in a minute, which is the stuff of the higher world in any case, and the soul has to adapt to the lower worlds, and the lower worlds can't adapt to the higher worlds, whatever. And so we are putting a value judgment on lower and higher worlds, as I've said before, most definitely and unashamedly. So then you have, so that's root. Rule, basically, rule is basically the I've said the rule of Gnostic life. You've got to lead the Gnostic life. You've got to carry out your meditations, your prayers. You've got to be compassionate. There are certain obligations to being in the lower worlds, which enable you to define your relationship to the lower worlds according to the rule of Gnosticism, of the Gnostic rule. And I have a video called the Gnostic Rule, I think it is, on this channel, and that's worth watching. In respect to this idea of rule, religio means to regulate your life according to the principles of Gnosticism. And then heart, you've got to open, your heart will gradually open to the infinite, open to the spiritual, as a result of rooting yourself on one hand, and following or trying to follow the rule of Gnosticism to the best of your ability. So your heart will gradually open, and even despite or because you're in the lower worlds, your heart will remain open for much of the time to the influence of the supernal worlds, to the spiritual. And then finally, well, not finally, we come to the spark, and the spark basically is the vital energy of being alive, which is improved or which is released around the body, distributed better around the body as a result of opening your heart and by following the rule of Gnosticism, by rooting yourself in the earth. So we're heading spiritually upwards, and yet we're also heading downwards into the earth itself. So we're putting roots down into the earth, and we're putting roots up to the supernal world at the same time. And by doing this in a balanced sort of way, we live a soulful life. We live a life according to soul. And soul is infinitely adaptable to all circumstances, and it's your emotions, your irrational side, that isn't adaptable, and you want to hold on, you want to grasp on to reality. But listen carefully, and this key is yours, as the song says. And you are, which is subject of another video, by the way. So every day I just I affirm that I am root, that I am rule, that I am heart, that I am spark, that I am soul. And I just find that it's a simple little exercise to do in every day. And I don't really know what the effects of doing this exercise actually are, if any. I mean, maybe I'm just sort of, being sort of talking to myself here really well. Maybe I'm just doing something which has absolutely no meaning whatsoever. I'm not really sure, and perhaps we don't really care about the effects. We don't care about results. We just decide to do something, and we do it as an act of will, as an act of what they call the true will, which is independent of any effects that will might have. And the very fact that you've decided to do something and you're doing it and you're following a path is evidence that you are rooting, following a rule, that you are aligning yourself to heart and to spark and to soul. And so I leave this contemplation with you. And I haven't done any work on this channel for a very long time, but I'm still thinking about you all, and I'm still thinking about Gnosticism. Of course, I never stop thinking about Gnosticism, and occasionally reading about it, very occasionally, mostly thinking about it. And these are the thoughts that I have come up for you today.